Next one up is from Arnold Smith. John Wick 3 crushed the competition this weekend. To give some context just how big of a win for Lionsgate this is, they've had 49 films in a wide release since Hunger Games Mockingjay Part 2 and before John Wick Chapter 3. Not only did it open bigger than all of them, but it's already outgrossed 37 of them at the domestic box office. What does this success tell us about how this franchise have evolved since first film and what its future is?
Yeah, it hasn't been sunshine and rainbows for Lionsgate. I mean, recently they've had some minor, small, impressive little hits along the way too. But yeah, John Wick Chapter 3. Let's take a look at the box office results from this weekend. John Wick Chapter 3 exceeds all expectations, comes in with $57 million, which is by far, it almost doubles the opening weekend for John Wick Chapter 2. John Wick Chapter 2 almost doubled the opening weekend for John Wick Chapter 1. Now John Wick Chapter 3 almost doubles the opening for John Wick Chapter 2. And let me tell you, folks, well frickin' deserved. Anyway, Avengers Endgame drops down to $29.4 million, taking another 54% drop. Also to note, we're now seeing the theater count starting to drop. About 450 theaters dropped Endgame this week. Hey, that's what happens as you get into week 3 and 4. But now we're starting to see that with Endgame as well. Pokemon Detective Pikachu took around a 50+% drop down to $24.8 million. A Dog's Journey opens with more than I thought it would. Opens to $8 million, and The Hustle comes in at $6 million. Now, before we talk about John Wick, let's track the progress here of Avengers Endgame, because that seems what we're always asking about and everybody's always talking about every day. Where does it stand now in relation to the all-time records? Well, Endgame this week passed Avatar to become the second biggest domestic box office film of all time. That's significant there too. So let's look at the all-time records here. Endgame right now domestically is sitting at $770.8 million. That's good for the number 2 spot on the all-time domestic list. It still trails significantly behind Star Wars Episode 7, The Force Awakens, with a record of $936.6 million. With the movie making $29 million this weekend, it's starting to lose theater count, and it's going to drop even more next weekend. I'll call it right now. Avengers Endgame will not catch Star Wars Episode 7, The Force Awakens domestic box office record. I'm going to call it now. I just don't see mathematically how it can happen at this point. Nothing's impossible, but I think we're all pretty safe to call that right now. It still needs to make another $160-something million. Domestically, I don't see that happening. However, it's a little bit of a different story for worldwide. Right now, Avengers Endgame worldwide sits at $2.6 billion. The worldwide record, of course, is still Avatar at $2.78 billion. The movie still needs to make about 100 and, what are we calling here? 120? No, more than that. What am I saying? 100 and something million dollars it needs to make. It's a lot of money it still needs to go. It's still a lot of money it needs to make. I still think it's going to do it. It is slowing down quickly. The time is running out. But I do believe, Rob, you called it a while ago. You said you believed that Endgame was still going to do it, but it was just going to crawl over that finishing line. Right. I think you're right. I think it'll do it. I think it'll just crawl over the finishing line. $3 billion's off the table at this point. It's not going to reach that, but who cares? It's going to be the most successful film of all freaking time. So let's get back to John Wick, though. This... First of all,
dip their wicks.
A lot of people went to dip their wicks this weekend, and rightfully so, because this movie is freaking magnificent. I will call it, now I said this on my open mic show yesterday, and I couldn't believe I said it, but I'll say it again. I had more fun at John Wick 3 than I did at Endgame. Now, I'm not sitting here telling you that John Wick 3 is a better movie than Endgame, but when it comes to just pure fun and pure entertainment, I cannot believe how much of a good time I had at John Wick Chapter. I was not expecting it on that level. Movie comes out, almost doubles the previous thing, $57 million. I thought it would come around 40, 45, so not that far off, but still, I thought that's where it would cap out. So happy to see this. Rob, you had a chance to see John Wick. What did you make of it, and does this kind of result surprise you at this point?
It doesn't surprise me, because like any good franchise, this is the perfect... It's like when I talked about the original Terminator. Terminator was really helped by home video. and it permeated the consciousness because it did okay in the theaters, but it was in the home video era. People were watching that movie over and over again. I think John Wick is kind of the same. I think people have discovered John Wick once it came out on home video, once it was available to stream, and its audience has grown exponentially, and it hasn't been reflected at the domestic box office with the first two films, but this effect and how much it outgrossed both John Wick 1 and John Wick 2 proves that the audience for this franchise is getting bigger, which I think is great and well-deserved. These movies are hugely entertaining. I love the world building. As far as John Wick 3 is concerned, I thought the back half of it really sort of was repetitive. You know, I thought the fights were kind of the same. I liked it, but it really slowed down. There's a lot of stopping. Like they're having these fast and furious fights, and then they would stop to talk with each other for a minute, and then throw somebody else through a glass case. But I loved all the world building. I love the adjudicator and the whole we decommissioned the Continental and
Well, let's not give away spoilers or anything like that.
Well, the stuff that they have, the plot of the movie, and I don't know if you can really spoil a John Wick movie, but
well, just in case.
Just in case. I really did like the relationships. I really like. You know, Lance Reddick and Ian McShane is the I want to open a hotel with their characters. You know, I mean, I love that they have this. I love that they're so refined. Yes. Lance Reddick can do no wrong. I mean, I love seeing them come back. I thought all the additional characters. I thought Halle Berry was great.
Oh, so much better than I thought she would be.
It was great
yeah.
Watching them work together was really, really good. So I had a lot of fun in the movie. I just thought for me it got a little. I had some fatigue at the end, but
it gets exhausting.
It got exhausting.
When you have just action, you need those breaks. You need those stops.
Yeah.
I actually thought it could have used a little bit more of that because it does, but
yeah, more. Whew. But Mark Dacascos was so funny. I mean, he was great. It was great to see him and bald and all the secondary characters in the world that they're building. The Bowery King coming back and seeing all those. I love all that stuff, and I love the way these movies look. They have a really beautiful nighttime. Apparently, unless you're out in the desert in another country, the sun never comes out in John Wick's world. The movies never. You don't see the sun. It's always at night. The streets are always wetted down. You know, that motorcycle chase that we've seen in the trailers.
Oh,
that was so great.
So great.
I mean, anybody who's going to fight with swords on motorcycles has my money. Full stop. It's like if there's a ski sequence in a James Bond movie, I'm a happy camper. And there hasn't been. I mean, Spectre could have had one. He didn't ski, but they were in the snow. What is up with that?
And I tell people going into it, I say, okay, if you're going to see it, all I'm going to tell you is book fight. That's all I'm going to say. Again, I've never been in an audience that, at least it's been a while, that viscerally responded and so demonstrably responded to a movie in a long time. Because I was sitting there watching John Wick 3 with Ann and Ray and our buddy Ryan, and the whole audience, like every fight, everything that was happening was wah, wah, oh my god, like just like yelling and screaming. It was amazing fun.
I have to give it up because there was something I've always wanted. I grew up going to this summer camp where I rode horses, the Flying Horseshoe Ranch. I love horses. I've always wanted to see somebody get kicked in the face by a horse in a movie.
Well, let's not give much away.
Well, the first picture was released that John Wick rode a horse.
Yes.
So I was hoping, let's just say I got what I wanted.
Yeah, it's tremendously fun and tremendously successful. As far as where do we put this in terms of, you know, what does this mean for this franchise going forward? Well, it means a couple of things that are obvious. Number one, John Wick 4 is coming. But that we kind of knew because Chad Stahelski, the director, we talked about this last week, we made that comment about, yeah, so 1 was challenging this way, 2 was challenging this way, 3 was challenging this way, and I'm sure 4 is going to be even more challenging. Oh, okay, so there's going to be a 4. Clearly, there's going to be a 4. Now, I don't expect the pattern of doubling every time to happen. I don't think John Wick Chapter 4 will open to $100 million, but who knows at this point. I mean, and seeing the growth and success, and look, it just means this. If you put out quality matters. Quality matters. Because, yeah, Transformers movies can make tons of money, but you continually put out crap, it's going to fall off a cliff. And that's eventually what it did. You keep putting out quality. John Wick Chapter 1 made $17 million opening weekend. The John Wick franchise has never been a big moneymaker. But you consistently put out quality, fun, good entertainment, and you stick with it, you're going to see the rewards start to come in a little bit later. And I think that's significant. I think that's important, not just for a company like Lionsgate to see. I think this lesson is important for all studios to see. Like, in particularly, right now, I'm thinking of Warner Brothers and their DC universe. Yeah. Shazam didn't make all the money that you wanted it to make. At least it didn't lose money. But let this be a lesson. If you keep putting out stuff that the audiences love and the critics love and all that kind of stuff, and you follow that path, you're going to reap the rewards down the line. And I think that's the big takeaway here for John Wick Chapter 3. I think that's going to be the bigger takeaway when John Wick Chapter 4 comes out. And I think that's a lesson that studios need to learn.
I also, though, wonder that after watching all three of these movies, there's this clandestine world of assassins and cutthroats. How are there any left? How is anybody from this world left at the end of this third movie? And I want to see
big body count.
I want to see it broaden its horizons a little bit. I don't know. They're going to have to come up with a very plot centric movie next time, because I honestly think another one of these movies won't sustain unless they go somewhere and make it really interesting.
Yeah, and I think every movie they've done so far, they've gradually, block by block, been building upon this underworld, this high table mythology. And you're right. They need to continue that. They can't just keep cranking out great action sequences. They got to continue that world building. Don't forget, we supposedly got this television series coming.
Yeah.
The Continental television series that is shared universe. John Wick will appear in it once in a while. So it's going to be interesting to see where they go with it.
Because how many people can you shoot in the head in one franchise?
That sounds like a challenge. John Wick says, hold my beer.